Hey, this is our Lab 3 leadership assignment. Our group consists of Griffin, myself, Jake, Pat, yeah, Luke, Colin, Dylan, and Caleb. This is our project for the exploding pumpkins. And here we used pumpkins, gourds, a cucumber, a rotten cucumber actually, a few apples, watermelons, a honeydew melon, 2 actually, and a few oranges. The video is separate from this one, so you've probably seen it already.
Yeah, we're going to be outlining some of the safety procedures that we took and some of the environmental factors that we weighed in. We'll also be discussing the procedures we took while we were setting up the blast. So you guys are going to get some insight into what happened that day.
Yeah, so environmental, we used biodegradable products, so that was the pumpkins and so on there. That cuts back on cleanup time, obviously, because we don't have to pick anything up, and there's no litter left there on the blast site. And safety?
Safety, we wore our personal protective equipment, which included a 6-point suspension hard hat, which was provided by Fleming College. We had gloves, we had reflective clothing, which was high-vis. Most of them were orange. There was a few yellow coats in there. We had safety boots, steel-toed with steel plantar protection. We also had safety glasses with the side shields to protect our eyes. We didn't have any tinted ones in our group, but some people did, to protect from the sun. We also put out a sign at the beginning of the blast area to warn people if they were coming in to watch that that's where the safety zone was.
Yeah, it said blasting in progress, basically in big orange sign, and it was black letters, I believe, there. Mm-hmm. We had blast guards. What was it, 4 blast guards there?
Yeah, 4 blast guards.
4 blast guards. Also, somebody on the siren, which is also like a megaphone. Mm-hmm. And we did a couple other safety things. We had a tailgate safety meeting before with our group.
Yeah, and the tailgate safety meeting is meant to discuss with your group what safe procedures you're going to be concerned about, such as the weather. It was a cool day that day, so we needed to dress appropriately, and other factors that might be differing from day to day.
That's right. Basically, for how we, like the procedures of what we did, first we had to collect our items, and as we said, it was 25 items of various shapes, sizes, stuff like that. So we collected up all of our items we were using, and the hollow items, we cut a square hole in them all and filled them up with water so that they would fragment better, because empty space in objects, they don't explode very well.
Mm-hmm. We used color water for those too, just because it gave a better effect when they exploded. You could see it a little better. We did a mix between red and yellow water, so yep. You could kind of tell what was exploding when.
Yep. Also, for the objects that didn't need water in them, we took powder punch, which is just a blaster's hand tool, and it's basically the perfect size for the detonators we were using. And you just insert this powder punch. It's just like a steel rod, and then it's easy to insert your detonators, and speeds it up when it's your turn, I guess. Then when it was our turn to go out there and actually set up our blast, we did a side slash, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. That was the pattern we used.
Yep, and it was just 5 rows of 5 objects.
We had non-L dual delays at each one. So that means there's a detonator which you insert into the object on one side, and then there's a bunch block which you clip on to the following non-L dual delay. So then what happens is the spark goes down, goes right through all of the systems, goes down the one side into the detonator, sets it off, goes to the bunch block, and it waits at the bunch block before it sets off the next one.
For 500 milliseconds it waits. So there's two, one end is 25 millisecond waiting period, the other end is 500 millisecond.
Yeah, the detonator is 500, the bunch block is 2500 milliseconds, or 25 milliseconds.
Yeah. So basically the spark traveled through the entire shot, row by row, before any explosion went off. And we used the 25 non-L shock tube detonators, and we also used 5 jumpers. We're 17 millisecond jumpers, correct?
But we actually used 4 jumpers. Yeah. And they, when you watch the video, they're the green wires, and they're meant to put delays in between each row of holes. Or, well, in a blast it would be holes, but we were blasting objects. So between each row of objects, you had 17 milliseconds delay. So the first row would be 25, 50, 75, 100, 125. The second row would be 17 seconds after that. So you wouldn't, like, the first hole would be 0, second hole would be 17. So you'd increase from there.
Yep. Then, basically, after we had it all set up, we taped the jumper and the first shock tube non-electric cord over a electric detonator, taped it up so that when you press the button, it'll explode the 2 shock tubes, sending the signal through the entire shot as we set it up. So after we did that, we ran the wires back, connected it to the leg wires, correct? And then from there, we tested the continuity of the circuit with a blasting machine.
A blaster's galvanometer.
Yeah.
And the blaster's galvanometer, it should, you'll have it on the high setting, so then you could see more of a change. It should go down to close to 1 or 0. Yeah. And then if your circuit's complete, then it will go down. If it's not, then you have an issue and you need to go back, check your leg wire, check your connecting wires, check your lead-in wires.
Yeah, to ensure it's all set up correctly. I believe the galvanometer read 0.3.
Yeah, it did.
0.3. And from there, I believe it was Colin who checked the continuity of the circuit. He stayed at that point because he was the shot firer for the day, so he stayed there. I believe Luke was on the horn, or it was Caleb.
Caleb was on the...
Caleb was on the horn. So they both stayed at the front of the shot there with the program director, Bill. And the rest of the group went around the blast area as blast area guards, setting up at all the various trails and pathways there to keep trail walkers, I guess, out of the blast area, keeping people safe. Then once the continuity was checked with the blaster's galvanometer there, Bill went ahead and checked with all the blast guards, making sure everything was safe to proceed there. Caleb let off 3 toots on the old horn there, and basically after that, Colin set up the wires, took them off the galvanometer, put them on the blasting machine, and then Caleb yelled fire in the old hole there and set her off.
The first horn was at 5 minutes, so
Yeah.
then if there was anyone in the area,
They would
then they would know that it's time to leave.
Yep.
The second one was at 1 minute, and that's just another one, like, if you hear that horn, you have to get out.
Yep.
And the final one is to signal that the blast is happening.
Yeah.
And it happens right after that.
Yeah, and then you yell fire in the hole after the third toot on the horn there, and then the shot firer is allowed to fire the shot, I guess. Then after the shot was fired, Caleb, the horn person, proceeded to go back into the blast site to check if all the detonators had exploded, and they did. So we all re-entered the blast site and took away the shock tube lead-ins and all the tape strewn around and wires, and basically set them out to be put in the garbage. then that's the end of the procedures.
Well, when Caleb went back in, he had to give the all clear to everyone before anyone could re-enter.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't all clear, we would have had to wait for about an hour. So it's good that they all went off.
Yep. Yeah. Then after the all clear was given, we went and picked up the garbage and set them aside so they could be disposed of, and that's the end of the procedures. Basically, there. If it was a real shot, you'd jot down in your notes of your blaster's log saying what if the shot went well, what happened, and our shot did go off as planned.
Yep. There were a few rotten pumpkins that we had that didn't break up as nicely as we would have hoped, but it was towards the end of the season for pumpkins. So.
Yep.
But like the melons went off as expected.
Yeah.
Everything seemed to go off pretty well.
Yeah, so after we picked up the shock tube, basically we went out of the blast site and told the next group they could proceed and start the exact same procedure, but with their group. We finished fairly quickly, I'd say, and it all went as expected. So
yeah, it took us about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Other groups were closer to half an hour, so we were really happy with our time.
Yeah.
We went in, went out, got it done.
And I guess that concludes the little interview here for Lab 3.
Yeah, I'm Patrick.
And I'm Jake.
See you later.
Well, I'm no public speaker, but that was our